name is Justin, and I am involved with We Are Change Orlando and the March Against Monsanto Orlando. So like you said, the Orlando people here, if you guys want to link up afterwards, definitely, we'll work together and stuff.
Hey, it's March Against Bayer now.
Yeah, March Against Bayer, BASF, Syngenta,
So
Dow.
on the one.
Yeah, as you guys probably know, Bayer just bought Monsanto, so we don't know if we're going to shift gears to a new name or try to make it something a little more like general. But yeah, so I got involved with this through Ryan and just really loved the idea, bringing people together to have this conscious meetup and conversations about real things and eating real food and just evolving as much as we possibly can. And this topic that I'm going to talk about today, it's pretty interesting because, well, first, I guess, how many people have ever looked into the flat Earth or thought about the flat Earth theory before? We've got some hands. Some of you probably like me, when I first heard it, I was like, what? This is the most ridiculous, ludicrous thing. Get out of my face. Get away from me. And this is even being aware to things like, September 11th, false flag terrorism, all the deception that goes on in this world, from education to our food to the foreign wars. So even being aware of that, I was still like, get away from it. This is just stupid. There's no way. Until finally a friend kind of pushed me to it, and I was like, you know what? Well, I should at least give this a look. We live by this motto of question everything, right? So I thought, well, we should also question this. And what another friend told me one time was, not only question everything, but especially those things that they deem unquestionable. And I'll be damned if this wasn't the most unquestionable, off-limits thing. Even in conscious conversations, you're talking about all this stuff going on in the world, the flat Earth. What are you? Is this 400 years ago? You guys stupid? So it was an interesting ride to start with it. But so I thank you guys for listening to this and being open to it. And that's why the first slide is it's the mark of an intelligent mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. So I'm not asking you guys to believe this. I'm not asking you guys to take it to the bank. Do your own research. Look into it if you'd like. If not, if you want to just ask questions, talk to me afterward. However you would like to take it. I'm open to questions when we go throughout, because I know this may ruffle a little bit of feathers when I say some things. It's going to be like, well, this one. So I guess we'll get started. The first real thing to remember with most things is what I come back to with this is what you believe to be true. Is it true, or is it just true because you believe that and that's what people told you and you've never looked any further? Well, we fell into this trap with a lot of things in this country, in this world. And this is another sort of trap that I noticed when I looked into this theory. So I guess the first question I want to ask you guys, why do you all think that we live here? Why do you think this is our home? Why do you think this is true?
It looks nice.
Because NASA told us so.
What was that?
Because NASA told us so.
NASA, okay, that's good. They send us pictures.
Gravity holds to the center. Spheres are nice.
Okay. I understand what they told us how it works with the gravity holding it, but why do we think we live in this place? Why do we think it looks like that, I guess?
Because we've been shown pictures and not the action shape.
Okay, that's kind of what I'm getting at here. We really don't have a way to go check. And don't get me wrong, I can't prove a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, but I hope it can point you in the right direction, because other than pictures, without NASA, no one can go to space. I'm not an astronaut. I don't think anybody else here is planning on going up there anytime soon.
Plus, you gotta be a Freemason.
Telescope, well, we're on Earth, so we can't really...
I know, but there's a relationship to the moon. We look at the moon, we can kind of see that, it's white, whatever.
Oh, sure.
We know that we're blue and green and brown.
Okay, so you're saying because of the way the moon looks, we probably are similar to it?
Maybe.
Another thing most people say, the planet's are round, the moon's round. We're all in the solar system together, right? Okay, perfect. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say here is most of us know that it's the globe because we've been told that, and someone told them that, who told them that, and we don't really have a way to find out. We can assume it might look like the other things, and other than NASA, we don't have it. So remember the first time you get to school, what is the first thing you see? The very first thing in the classroom when we're 5 years old is this thing right here, is a globe, and they tell us that's where we live. They tell us, and we were like, hey, well, why don't the people on the bottom fall off? Well, gravity. Oh, okay. You sit back down. Well, why can't we do this and that? Well, they tell you, well, when you're 5 years old, there's no questioning. You are taking that to the bank. And that is the one time that we are most easily programmed when we're young and we're in school. That's how it works with most of the topics. So as you want to resist this possibility, I just remind you that this is the most well-ingrained thing in us. Like, this is like the sky is blue. We know, no one's going to argue about that. That's pretty much how people feel about the globe we live on. So I just want to mention those points. This is basically what the flat earth looks like in the theory. I'm just going to kind of describe what it looks like a little bit, and then go into why we actually think that this is, that some people think this is where we live. So this is what it looks like. This is a completely flat disk, and the center, I guess I can use the pointer.
Use a laser.
This is the North Pole, and as you can see, there's no South Pole. It's just a ring. This is a 360-degree ice wall. If you were to go due south in any direction, you're going to hit this ice wall. It's about 100, 200 feet high, so they say. There are some pictures of it. There's the condenser centering, the immovable, fixed North Pole. I guess another big thing I should mention is not only is it flat, but it's motionless. We're not going anywhere. We're not hurling through space on a spinning ball. We are told we're on a flying space ball and the oceans don't fly off because of gravity. Well, I would like to present to you that we are on a flat, motionless plane. The North Pole, we still have magnetism. We have density and buoyancy, but there's no gravity. How many people like the sound of that? Gravity's not real. You guys like that?
Feathers. Ruffle them feathers.
I'll get to gravity in a second, but I just want to keep gravity and NASA in a little bucket over here. We'll get back to that.
How does that fall?
Okay, we'll go to it now. This falls, I would tell you, because what's heavier than the air falls. So how come a hot air balloon doesn't fall? It's lighter than the air, so it's going to rise. It's about density. This is denser than the air. The helium in the hot air balloon is lighter than the air, so it rises, this one falls. Gravity's not forcing that hot air balloon down. Why not?
Mind blown.
It just wants to force down this thing. There's no place for gravity. I'm sorry.
Not be still in a spinning ball.
There's no place for gravity. I'll explain that a little more. But go ahead.
There's no core. You don't have a core.
No core. I mean, I don't know what's.
Lava come out?
Well, I'll tell you this too. The deepest anyone's ever dug in the earth? 7.5 miles.
In Russia, right?
I'm not sure where. I just know the depth. But that's not very far. So I think, in my opinion, this is a little off topic, but I think it's a little crazy to think that we know what is in the middle of the earth. What's that?
I said, how is it off topic? Because if we have a core.
But no, I'm not saying you're off topic. I'm just kind of like delving off into a little range. Just saying real quick. I don't know what's down there. I've obviously never been down there, and if we've only dug 7.5 miles, that question is just kind of, that's up for debate.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see that one. This is another illustration. I'm just going to show you guys some examples. This is not what I think it looks like. This is not what it looks like, but it's just to give you an idea. As you can see, this is like a snow globe. You got the flat, and everybody's here. You've got the ice ring that keeps us all in. It's like a little petri dish or a World Cup or something. And it's got a nice dome here. People call that the firmament. This is the dome that keeps us in our enclosed, fixed, immovable plane. As you see, the sun and the moon and the stars, all these heavenly bodies that we see, the celestial stuff, is all rotating above us in a circle like this, basically. So the things that we see are still up there, obviously, and they're all local. But we are told the sun is 93 million miles away, this far distant star off in space. I'll get you in just a second. Far distant star off in space, right? That's what the sun, we are told, is. I'm going to tell you that the sun and the moon are the same size. They're local within our sky, and they're not as far away as we are told. So the stuff is close. Earth doesn't move. It's got an ice wall. There is no South Pole. And you're not allowed to go to the ice wall. If you were to go to this ice wall, it's littered throughout history. People have tried to. If you don't go with an approved government research mission, you will be, just like if you flew over restricted airspace, leave or be shot down or shot out of the water. One guy was fined a lot of, I don't know the amount, it was Norwegian money, but he was fined a lot of money and told to turn around, even threatened with prison time. So there's a treaty with 40, 50 nations, the only treaty held for 100 years. Every single major developed country can get on board with. The only thing we can agree on, nobody's going to Antarctica, wherever it is. Nobody's allowed to go there. So unless you're on some tourist or pre-approved mission to go to one of these little inlets that are in South America and Australia, they take you to the little mock barbershop South Pole, and you're on your way. You had a question also?
So is the sun round or not?
I've never been on the other side of the sun or the moon, So we can't really say, I guess, if it's. I would say it is. They appear to be. The moon is much closer than they say also. And if you take a look at the moon through a telescope, it appears to be spherical. So I would say that the both of them probably are.
The celestial, those things are round because of gravity.
They're round because of gravity?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like all planets are round because of gravity.
Okay.
Like the planets have been formed the same,
Mhm.
and they became round because of gravity. So how come the sun and the moon is round but the earth is flat?
Well, that would be like asking, why is the pool table flat but all the balls are round? What bearing does this ground have anything to do with that stuff up there? I'm telling those are doing what they're doing. They've got celestial bodies, the planets, the sun, and the moon. We're down here. We're just the ground. We're the fixed, immovable, flat, endless plain with a surrounding ice wall with who knows what on the other side. So we're nothing like what's up there. That's a very common misconception. Well, they're round. We're round. What do they have anything to do with us? It's kind of like pool table or a basketball court even. Like, well, the ball's round, so the court must be round, you know? They're just totally separate from each
so
other.
all those objects are made up the same way, but supposedly we're just different.
Yes, we're different. That's what I'm just presenting.
Well, they're made of the same materials. They're
Oh,
obviously
I'm saying
not
they're
the
made
same.
the same way, like because of gravity they became round.
And I don't think that we could either of us could prove how the planets were created or that they're round because of gravity. I mean, we're told that, but you got any?
I mean, okay, so what would be the point of hiding?
I'll get to some of that stuff. I know you've got a lot of questions, and I'm glad to answer some, but I don't want to get too deep into the the what ifs because there's kind of a couple slides on here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to share a foundation for thought because this is a controversial topic, and whether or not you subscribe to this or it's commonly accepted.
Right.
But to every rumor and story is some amount of truth, and our first basis of knowledge is through experience. So whether or not you can subscribe to this or you subscribe to the idea that we exist in a universe that has round objects, none of us really know unless we've actually been out in space and seen it. So whether or not you want to entertain an idea like this or your own what's commonly accepted, it doesn't matter. But like to what you had in the original post, if you can entertain it and accept it or not, accept you.
I agree, and that's very well put. Like, I'm not asking you to subscribe to it like that, and like he said, we can't go to space and prove many of these things that we're going to talk about, but there are some provable things, some experiments you can do with the curvature, the moonlight. I'm going to get to in just a second, so let me just keep moving. Here's just another illustration. These are just like things that people create to give you an idea of what it may look like. As you can see, it's got the dome. Think of it like the Truman Show. There's the sun and the moon rotating above us. A lot of people ask about the sunlight. Well, if it's flat, how is it? It's going to be sunlight all day long, right? Because it's never going to go around the horizon. Well, I'll get to the sun in a little bit, but just to give you an idea, like I said, forget that the sun is this massive star 90 million miles away. It's right here in our sky with the moon. And it's like a spotlight. So when it goes over this area, it's lighting up this area, but it's dark over here in Australia, if you see what I mean. So as they rotate, that's how we get our daylight. And the sun does tighter circles in the summer, which is how we get our seasons, and wider ones in the winter. That's when it gets colder. So it kind of explains some of those things as well.
So how do you get like moon eclipse?
I'll get to that also. No problem.
Because like they're separate, so.
Yeah, I know. It's a great question as well. It's just another little illustration. If no one's been on the other side of the ice wall, this topic interests me too because it's intriguing if you think about it. If we are being lied to about what is going on with the shape of the Earth and where we live, it's kind of makes you want to go look around or look up if people have looked around. And it's littered throughout history. People trying to trek around this ice wall. And Antarctica is only supposed to be 12,000 miles around the continent on the bottom of the globe. There's littered throughout history explorers that have clocked 60, 70, 80,000 miles around without getting back to their original spot. They should have only needed to go 12, but they kept going, maybe because they were going around the outer rim. Here's the ice wall I'm talking about. People say, the biggest question, why don't we fall off the edge? This is also another thing we're ridiculed about with the falling off the edge thing is, Christopher Columbus would have fell off the edge. Well, there is no edge. There's a barrier. So they kind of just dead sad. It's kind of something that people jump to, and I did it first as well. And just talking about some of the early explorers, it was supposed to be 12,000 miles, and then, like I said, they were clocking 50 to 60, and even 69 with another explorer, Captain Cook and James Earl Ross. You can look up Antarctic Treaty. There's a lot of interesting information about what's going on possibly there. And like I was telling you, it's the only place protected by a multinational navy with that many countries for 100 years. So
There's countries that we're at war with or have problems with, and up here we're perfectly peaceful.
and they will tell you, on paper, it's just for research. We're trying to learn about it. But this man, Mr. Admiral Byrd, did this interview on NBC back. I don't know when this was. I should have looked into that. But
Probably like the 40s, because he went there to confront the Nazis.
yes.
That interview's in the 50s.
Yeah, so there we go,
Yeah.
40s, 50s,
40s,
is what we're
50s,
looking
yeah.
at. He talked about on TV how there was they explored the Antarctica as they were talking about it, as if it was a globe. And he said on the other side of Antarctica there was a continent as big as America. It's never been seen, with plenty of resources and luscious trees, all this stuff. Well, if you take that on a globe, that puts you on the other side of Antarctica, puts you in the Indian Ocean, and there's no continent there the size of America unless they're still hiding that. So that would, or you could argue that they went across the ice wall and found more land maybe. And the irony here, I don't know how you explain that, but it's also a flat clock map behind them during that interview. Maybe it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, there's a lot of coincidence.
Yeah, so the spin is one thing I want to talk about first before we talk about the flatness. The spin, we are told that the Earth spins on its axis, right? This is why we think it's not moving and why we think it's flat. 1,000 miles per hour on its axis. We are then spinning 60,000 miles per hour around the sun. This is what we're told. So we've got two spins so far. We are then going around the Milky Way 500,000 miles per hour, spinning in another direction. We are then rifling through space at 600 million miles per hour. So we're at upwards of 600 million miles per hour in 3 to 4 different directions. Anyone ever seen, felt, heard, or measured this motion or heard of?
What are you measuring that against? What's the
This is just what modern science and NASA astronomy tells us. If you look it up,
Everything
we're
they're measuring it against, like for our speeds, measured towards the sun's towards the
What's constellation? Because it's all relatively against a different.
yeah, so the Earth is measured towards the sun's measured against the solar system against the galaxy, and so on and so forth. So that's how, it's the distance that measures the speed. So how far we are and how much it moves from that distance is where they measure the actual speed of something. Just like if you're speeding down a road and a cop clocks you, all it is where he's stationary at and where you're moving and that distance you move, it tells him, it calculates that measurement, and that tells you how fast you're moving. So everything's just based off the next higher up, sun, galaxy, etc., etc. And that's where the speed comes from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just wondering where's your point?
Yeah.
Oh, mine or his?
Hey,
The point of reference.
Okay.
Yeah, point of
I'll get
reference,
to
so
it.
that's what it is.
Oh, point of reference. I got you. What's your point here, guys? So, anyways, we're spinning at 1,000 miles per hour at the axis, 60,000, 500,000, and 600 million. All these different spins. No one has ever seen, felt, heard, or been able to measure this supposed spin of the Earth. They say it's like a vortex. The sun is flying through the solar system with all the planets trailing behind it, doing all of these different speeds, wobbling and spinning. I just described all that, going through the universe. Yet, it's really impossible to measure this. No one's ever observed it, and there's no proof of it. If anyone can show me proof, I would love to find it. I've been trying to debunk this since I found out about it, honestly, because I was like, no, there's got to be a way,
We've had
to figure
endless
this out.
conversations
So-
of this.
Yeah, go ahead.
So everything is extrapolation. I mean, that's where science and math has come from. We have a transmission electron microscope in our laboratory that I own. And so what we see at the sub-nanometer level, we're seeing spheres. We're seeing.
This is my argument, and I agree with you.
Yeah, he's brought this up.
I'm seeing it at a very small level that it's impossible without this microscope to ever see. We're also seeing dark field. You take a look at your blood, under intense magnification, everything is moving, and it's constantly, yet you don't feel that, you're walking around, you feel very balanced. So we know for a fact that Brownian motion is real, and that nanometer, sub-nanometer, ions, what they look like, I've seen it.
Right. So you're saying basically there's so much in
We're
this
moving,
world.
everything's moving continuously, and yet you don't necessarily feel that.
Okay. So
I agree.
I mean,
Okay.
atoms move. Atoms can move. We don't.
Atoms are flying.
Okay, and that's probably one of the biggest arguments with it too. Is the reason we don't see this curvature or feel this spin is because it's so vast, right? It's so big that we don't ever feel it. Well, I'll give you an example of why I don't believe we are spinning. Based on that is all those spins, all that hurling, all that spiraling, that vortex. When you go outside on a calm night, this is what you see. It's very calm. Doesn't feel like anything's moving. You don't observe any movement. These stars, these fixed star patterns, have been in the same place for thousands and thousands of years. The pyramids are lined up with them. We know that. These stars don't move. Well, they do. They move in a fixed pattern. As you know, like if you could look at the Big Dipper 4 times of the year, it moves as if the stuff was rotating above us. If we were moving in all those different directions, rifling at like a bullet speed through the universe, we would never see the same star patterns once, ever. So that is one of the biggest arguments for the spin. The North Star, Polaris, ever gone anywhere? It's not going anywhere. It is not going anywhere. Were we moving? Doesn't appear to be. We don't observe it. Another thing I want to bring up real quick about this whole topic is I feel like they have made us throw away our own observations and common sense. And I know some things are out of our perception, the vastness of it or something, but it's like, oh, well, sun rises and sets.
I'll
moon
bring up a good
rises and
example real
sets.
quick to what he said.
And-
I was talking one second.
Okay, go
We were
ahead.
talking about this over dinner. The JFK assassination, right? Everybody's always talking about it. Has anybody here shot a gun before? Obviously, when you shoot a gun, right, and whatever your target is follows that momentum, right? So how does JFK get shot from the front when his body is head and all the motion flies forward? It's at that point of discussion, everything after stopped. He was shot from the behind because the motion of the body and everything went forward. He was assassinated from the behind, not from wherever the fuck they say it is. So it's just going back to this point.
Yeah, you
is
throw out your
we're
own
told so much
observation.
bullshit, and then we're like, oh yeah, well he was over here and this and that. Like, no, just stop whatever all the chatter in your brain and just see what took place. And his body, his motion went this way. He was shot from behind and stuff.
And I look at it too, it's like I said, if you were to go out there and observe, you see the sun rise and set. It looks like the stars move, somewhat throughout the year. It looks like the stuff is moving. It doesn't appear that we are moving. And I want you to just try to go back outside and forget what we've been taught and just think about it tonight or tomorrow and just stand as still as you can and look at the stars and think about, are we moving at 1,000, 600,000, 600 million, all this stuff? Does it look like we are? So that's just one of the points. And if you take star trails, they are absolute perfect circles. And as you can see Polaris in the middle, it's perfect circles because it's rotating perfectly above us. It's like the little mobile in the baby crib, just rotating above us. And it comes and it goes and it's there, it's always there. So it's really, how do you reconcile that vortex spiraling through space with these perfect circular motions? This is just one motion. I don't see this and then this and then this all the way. So I think we're motionless. Does anybody have any questions about the motion or anything? I'm going to jump to the curve now. Go ahead, Mike.
Water.
Huh?
Talking about the water.
Oh, we'll get to it. Okay, so this is it, supposedly. We'll go back to the globe for a second. It curves, right? It is a curve. It's a ball. It's a sphere. So essentially, if you're over here, you can't, if your eyes were that good, I guess, you can't see someone over there because of, the curvature. So at some point, it has to actually curve. Yes, it's so big, we could never see it. We could never imagine fathoming seeing it because it's so big, right? That's what we're always told. Well, it has to start somewhere. Well, the curvature, according to modern science, NASA, is 8 inches per mile squared. So you would take, this is complicated, I'll get to the next one, it breaks it down much better. You take the distance, you square it, and you multiply it by 8. And that is how much curvature is from two distances. So if it's 20 miles, you would square it, multiply it by 8, and then you divide by 12 to get your inches, or your feet. And that is how you calculate it. Well, if you calculate this curvature anywhere around the world, any example, go try to replicate this. Find if you can do it. With a good telescope, with a good camera, it should be possible. So as you can see here, if we're 10 miles out, there should be 66 feet of curvature. So if you're 10 miles away from a pier that's only 50 feet tall, technically you shouldn't be able to see that pier. Now this is assuming that the camera is, at sea level. We're not taking into account like my height and how far I can see. We're just talking about level, sea, flat. And that is where you cannot replicate this anywhere. There's an old experiment called the Bedford Level in 1838. They sent a little boat down a flat canal, or a canal that supposedly curves, over 6 miles. And if they could still see it based on the math, then they would know whether there was visible curvature or not. And when they got there, this is what they experienced. This is what they thought they would experience. You know, once they got to a certain point, his sight, you cannot see over that, over the hump. But this is what was observed. And since they probably tried this earlier than 1838, but from then on, it's littered throughout history. Even just last year, they went back to the Bedford Level, a group of people, some more well-known flat earthers, and replicated this. They had good results, but there were a lot of variables that messed them up, and they do need to try it again. The biggest example is the Chicago skyline. You can't see it that well because of what we're using here, but that is the Chicago skyline, visible 60 miles away across Lake Michigan. This is one of the most famous examples. This is impossible to see if the Earth is 25,000 miles in circumference with that curvature. If you're worried about the math, I did not come up with this. This is science. This is NASA. This is what they say. So with that math, you should not be able to view this. And it was funny because a guy took a picture of this just a year or so ago, and it made it on the news. And the local news anchor tried to explain this away. And he said, what you're seeing here is a mirage. And you know, because you can't see it because there's too much bend of the Earth, is what he said, but it's reflecting the light and throwing the image over, and you're able to see it. It sounded like a bunch of BS. And if you look up what a superior mirage is, this is a superior mirage. See how the boat looks inverted? It's upside down and right side up? That's a superior mirage. This is a skyline. You can watch time lapse of this if you think the picture's fake. There's multiple pictures of it. The guy, his name's down in here in one of them, Nowicki, Joshua Nowicki. Check him out and his photographs and time lapse of this. And like I said, you can demonstrate this at the Statue of Liberty, 60 miles out. Calculate how much curvature there should be from 60 miles away. Shouldn't be able to see it. It's right there on a clear day. As long as you have a good camera or a telescope, you can see much further than they tell us we should be able to. So there is no measurable curvature whatsoever. Lighthouses, another great example. Every single lighthouse you can do this to. Go look up how tall it is, go do the math, go find it. If you live in New York, try it with the Statue of Liberty. If you live in Chicago, I know someone who's tried this at the beach. So we do live on the coast. If you'd like to go try this maybe Miami Beach or something and find a pier 20, 30 miles out.
What was it again? 1 inch for every 8 miles?
It's 8 inches per mile. So for the first mile, it would just be 8 inches, which is nothing. And every mile after that, you square the distance. So like I said, for like 10 miles, you would have about 66 feet. And another thing about the curvature, you know, you think that these long bridges, these long canals, they would have to maybe account for it at some point if it was, you know, if there was a curve for something that long. If there's 30 miles and you've got that much curve, then you might have to take that into consideration when you're building these massive structures. This engineer here, Winkler, published in the Earth Review, this is back in 1838 as well. The Earth curvature is, it's absurd that they say that there's this allowance. He says it's only permitted in school books. No engineer would dream of allowing anything of the kind. I've projected many miles of railways and canals, never been a thought of this curvature. So he talks about the 8 inches per mile and how it's just absolutely ridiculous that they would ever consider this. So there's no surveyors, engineers, architects that use this 8 inches per mile squared when they do things because there's no curve. Does anybody have any questions about the curve or the spin that we cannot find?
It was interesting. I remember I climbed this mountain, Mount Shasta, beautiful place, by the way, guys. Everyone should visit. And it stands at 14,179 feet. And I remember some of it. And I remember one of the things I really marked at was that I could see the curvature of the Earth. So that was my.
You said you couldn't?
I could.
Oh, you could?
Yeah, it looked rounded. So maybe the numbers are different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. And then secondly, I wanted to bring up that this model interestingly fits a lot of like Vedic and Indian concepts about cosmology and the
Yes, I'm going to get to that as well.
Design of the universe.
Yes.
If you ever look at the Jains cosmology, I went to India and I got to study with them, and they were really interesting in the way they organize the universe. So
right.
It's there's like levels according to consciousness.
Yep.
And they have these planes, and so right here we're in this middle band. So
I've read
it is-
about
It
this.
is like a disc. It is like a disc, like this thing, which is being held right there. And then there's this up. But it's interesting because there's this sensation of up in other worlds, and then there's a sensation of down according to this model.
Yeah.
There must be a down, and all these things. This must be up. All this, the Jupiter and those places.
Right, right. Yeah, it's all very interesting. I'm going to talk a little bit about this because it's not only littered throughout history of people trying to prove this wrong or prove that we live on a spinning ball, but also people. I totally just lost my train of thought. But yeah, we'll get to whatever I was probably going to say in a second. Another thing about
So how do you explain
yeah.
sunsets?
Sunsets. Oh, that's just right after the airplane thing. Pilots do not fly an airplane as if the Earth is a ball, and they don't fly it as if it's moving. You ever seen if you notice when you fly, you get up 40,000 feet, you level off, and you fly straight as can be. You ever notice the pilot dip his nose down every 500 feet? Stay over, because if you're on a ball, now obviously this is much smaller, but if you were flying across country from LA to New York, there is, thousands of feet or more of curvature that he would have to dip his nose down. If you flew for a certain length of time and never dipped out, you fly into outer space. You have to fly around it for a long enough flight, and obviously not from here to Atlanta or something, but you still would have to dip the nose down. They do not dip it down. It flies perfectly straight, and some people would argue that the plane does it for them because of the technology, or maybe gravity holds us to it magically, but there's really no proof of that. And the other thing, like these jets here flying like right above sea level, I don't know how fast they fly, but obviously a regular airplane's flying 500 or 600 miles per hour. But you would have to dip the nose down every, what does it say? To descend 2,777 feet every minute based on that curvature. Airplanes don't fly that as if it's round. And also the other thing, if the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles per hour around like this, east to west, do pilots land on a moving surface? So if it's going this way, do they have to catch it when it's moving? Is that the runway is going this way? And what about the ones that aren't built east to west, the ones that are built north to south? So they're trying to land and it's going this way. They're not landing on a moving target. They're landing on a perfectly stationary plane. It doesn't move. Maybe that's why it's called an airplane, flying over a plane. But they don't fly as if it's round. They don't fly. Now, if you ask them, obviously they're not, these people aren't in on it. That's another thing. Nobody's in on this. This isn't something that people just know. They wake up in the morning, the Earth's round, I get in, I fly, point A to point B, I land, the Earth is a sphere. These people aren't in on it. They obviously don't think about these things. I guess they would argue that the atmosphere is magically just this Velcroed, perfectly stuck to the Earth, like gravity keeps the atmosphere. So all of our clouds and airplanes and everything in our atmosphere is just perfectly spinning with the spin. If you think about that, I think it sounds completely ridiculous. I mean, I've seen clouds go one way and then another cloud going the other way. We're not all moving at this eastward motion all together. And it's like I said, it's never been measured, it's never been demonstrated ever in history. And pilots fly as if it's a flat and stationary plane. Oh, I saw a hand in the back. Anybody said something maybe? Did you have a question a second ago?
Oh, I was saying maybe they don't have to dip every so often because you actually need a velocity speed to exit our gravity 8,000 meters per second. So there's a falling that you're falling at this every so often.
Okay, so you would basically, that's kind of the argument that gravity's sort of keeping us at it.
Yeah.
So gravity just knows to just keep the plane where it needs to be? Okay. I mean, I personally, I don't think that's, I don't think it's true. It's totally possible. I just don't see how it would just, magically know when to make a plane dip. Oh, okay.
So wait, you don't
Yeah, go ahead.
believe that the gravity knows what it's doing, but the sun is circling around?
I don't believe in gravity, so yeah, no.
No, but how does this? It's the same thing about the sun. It just magically goes around.
So if you want to believe everything's just magically working magically, then that's all you, man. But I mean, I'm sorry, bro. I can't just go off of it just works that way, and they just tell us that. The reason that trillions and trillions of gallons of water stick to the ball and don't fly out is just because of gravity. I mean, there's no proof of that. Can you take a wet tennis ball and spin it and keep the water on it? How come the gravity doesn't keep that water on? It's almost like it's our imaginary magic friend, gravity. It does all these things that we can't explain. Gravity comes with the ball. Gravity comes with the ball. Without the ball, you don't need gravity. Why do we need gravity? We need it to keep the oceans on. Well, the oceans aren't, it's a flat plane. This falls because it's denser than the air. There's really no place for it. in my opinion, and in flat earthers' opinions too. So that's kind of how that works. If that answers your question.
You never said how did it start? Like,
How did it start?
Where's the like origin of this flat Earth?
Of the theory or the actual Earth?
I mean, whatever. You
Well, I have no idea how the Earth started or the universe or
no,
any
not
of
the
that.
Earth, but the theory. I mean, it has to
Oh.
come from someone.
Well, 400 years ago, if you thought you lived on a spinning space ball, you were an absolute lunatic, and they'd probably burn you on a stake. 400 years ago, everyone knew that the Earth was the center of the universe. Everyone knew that everything revolved around us. And if you thought otherwise, you were a psycho. And then one day it changed. It flipped. And I think that is when the deception was brought on. That is when, if you look into the, good call, sun worship. If you look into the sun worship, it was Freemasonry. They paid these people, these scientists, these Copernicus, to give us this. And when they gave us this, they gave us gravity. And it doesn't really have a place.
Can I interject something?
Yeah, go right ahead.
This is like so, I'm so hyped about this topic. I've been studying it for so long. I'm a psycho about the flat earth because what we were told, people say the number one question is like, how does it really affect our lives? Are we on a ball that's spinning? Are we on something flat? Even if we know the truth, what does it matter? None of us are going above the atmosphere.
Great
We're
question.
not going above the firmament, most of us in our lifetime. Why would everybody lie? Why would all these organizations and institutions go for so long to make us believe that we're on a ball that's spinning? And the reason is because if we're to believe that we are part of something like a galaxy with septillion amounts of planets, that's got like 24 zeros on it, septillion. This is what we were told. How do they know? Nobody's been to these planets, these stars, these galaxies. If we think that we're spinning in a chaotic universe, one planet out of all of this, what the F are we? We're insignificant. We don't have much purpose. We're wandering. We're lost. Our minds are like, what's going on? And so we walk around with this sense of, I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out, like every single one of us feel all the time. We're trying to find some purpose to it. We're trying to see if we really even matter. We are the center of the universe. We are on a flat plane that does not move. It's completely still. You observe it with your senses. You go out and you feel calmness and serenity. You're grounded to the earth. And not because of gravity, not because everything's spinning in perfect relativity to each other, but because we are on something that is still. There's a firmament above us with stars and constellations that we've seen for thousands of years that never go away because that is rotating around us. Always comes back around and we see it with perfection. What's above that realm, NASA doesn't even really know. No satellites have been past it. Nobody's actually been to the moon. This is all a hoax. Why would we be fooled to this degree? Because if you think that you're in something chaotic and you're spinning and you don't even know what you are and you're this random creature on a random planet, then what the F are you? So it's the total opposite. Everything is revolving around you. You really, really are the center of it. This changed my life when I found this out. I never even thought that the earth was like a circle, like a sphere that's spinning, but I didn't know what it was. And then I found out all this stuff, and when you resonate with something, every single part, every cell of your being just starts to go, oh yeah, like I don't know the actual mathematics, I don't know the research, but I know that this is true. And nobody's been able to prove it otherwise. Everywhere you go, the skydiving, the everything, there's no curve, man. There's no curve. We're surrounded by an ice barrier, 360 degrees around our flat terrain. And below us is water, and above us is water. And we have, like the gentleman said, realms. There's realms, it keeps going, but from our perspective, there's an above and there's a below. And every, like he said, every culture in the past showed it. They showed it in their depictions, in their images. But this is what it is. This is a flat egg dome shape, and we're here in this middle band, and nobody's on a freaking ball spinning. And we can feel it. It's something you can observe. I just wanted to
That was a very...
That was awesome.
Great comment. Great comment. You really got to the meat and potatoes of it really before I could, because that is the gist of it. You know, when you talk about the why, we'll go ahead and get to it. I'll just touch on what you did. But at one point, we are a random, dumb, blind accident in an endless universe. It makes you feel insignificant. The center piece with a purpose gives you purpose. And it makes you, well, what the hell are we doing here? This is someone created this and put us here. We must be here for a reason. Maybe we should figure out why. Maybe I should get on my own purpose instead of just, oh, well, maybe a meteor will hit us tomorrow, you know, YOLO. forget it, right? Who cares? You know, we could be knocked out tomorrow, you know, solar flare, who knows? It could all be over, so just YOLO it up, right? No, we are very important, and this was created for whatever reason, but obviously it's not an accident. And she's right, I believe that too. I think it was created to make us feel like a blind dumb accident, and we're very important, and it took away our, that takes away your drive to want to do something with your life. Next big one is the horizon. No matter where you're at on the earth, the horizon is perfectly flat and eye level. I'll kind of come back to the guy that talked about the Mount Shasta thing, that's interesting. But sea level in an airplane, whether you shoot a weather balloon up, it is perfectly flat no matter where you look at it. You can look this up online. There are amateur weather balloons that have gone up and they sit up there for like an hour. Not only is the earth not spinning, but everything is completely flat and the horizon is eye level. The horizon being at eye level is only possible on an endless flat plane. If you're living on a ball and you go up, the horizon, if you're up here, the horizon's still down here. Why is it rising with you? It doesn't make any sense. And when you take these balloons up to 60,000 feet, 120,000 feet, where is the curvature? You can look this all up for yourself. I encourage you to. As you see, this horizon line is perfectly flat, and it just goes on.
So the guy who, within the last couple of months, you know, he
Red Bull.
He
boom, got slides for it, brother.
But I clearly saw the curvature at that point, and
I did too.
All the pilot friends that I know have seen the curvature. When I went to the top of the tallest building in the world in Dubai, I saw the curvature.
Saw it? Yeah. Okay.
And then, you know, what I see under a microscope, I see curvature. So
okay.
You know, I have a hard time yet jumping to the
I totally understand.
Even though open-minded is why we're here.
I totally understand. And the thing about the microscope thing, I kind of relate that to, well, you know, the other things around, we must be too. I get it, but you know, we can't really. That's not, you know, provable. The confirmation bias. When we look out the airplane, you guys probably, maybe someone's wanted to raise their hand and be like, well, I've flown, I've seen the curvature, right? I've flown an airplane. You told me you saw it from the top of the mountain.
Yeah, that was my impression.
I would argue that it's confirmation bias. Before I looked into this, I thought, hell, I've been in an airplane, I've seen it. You know, when you get up that high, you can see it, right? Think you can. I challenge you, please, with an open mind, objectively, the next time you're up somewhere high, the next time you're conscious of this possibility, take a look at it, and it will look like this. I mean, I can assure you that this 120,000 feet video that I've watched and these 60,000 feet cameras and shots are not all, I don't think they're all being elaborately faked. I would love to shoot one up one time. I've only been looking into this for just over a year now. I haven't had the means to do that, but no matter how you check it out, it's always going to be perfectly flat when we go up high. It's just the way our eyes see too. It's like, see how everything's converging at the vanishing point here at the horizon. The next thing I was going to talk about was water. This one's pretty simple and basic. I feel like this would resonate with most people. It does with me, but water's level. That's it. That's all. That's it for water. It's level. I mean, can you show me water curve? Can you show me water bend? If you see it in this bottle right here, it's perfectly level. When the lake is calm, it's perfectly level. Water is not curved and not bent, it never has, and there's no example of it unless it's on this spinning ball that we have never been able to go out and see. If you guys get, it's probably why it's called sea level, maybe, not sea curve, because there's no such thing as water curving. It is impossible, it's the natural physics of water. I've never heard an argument for this one.
Hey, so why does, you know, when you flush a toilet in the northern hemisphere, it goes one way, and when you're in the southern hemisphere, it goes the other way?
Coriolis effect, that is a myth. I have a sink in my house, I can do both in my house. So it's totally irrelevant. It's something, I guess it's just one of those little wives' tales, myths things we're told about. Some storms spin the wrong way also, because it's not all. Most of them spin that way in the northern and southern, but when you have a couple storms that don't fall in it, then it makes it invalid. When you've got two sinks going the same way in a house, it makes it invalid. So the Coriolis effect is sort of just a myth.
One question.
Yeah.
If the Earth is not moving, how do you explain that the ocean is always in motion, that there's waves?
Man, that's a really good question. I've not really tried to figure out how that's happening. I don't know if I can. You know, there's a theory. I should have told you this in the beginning, but when you go back to the flat center piece, some people think that there's a mountain or a temple or a pyramid of some sort at the very center, and that's part of the reason we're not allowed to go there. Some people think that there's this like whirlpool, like swirling thing right at the center, and they think that's what causes the waves. I'll get to the moon stuff because, you know, I don't necessarily believe that the tides are caused by the moon either. But I really don't know what causes the waves. That's a great question, and I just I don't have an answer for you on that one.
To be centered and to be clear now, you're talking about the North Pole, you're talking about the Arctic region.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Correct.
Place.
The South Pole, or I'm sorry, the South Pole does not really exist because if it's flat, it's spread out and it's just a
Ice
ring.
wall.
Yeah. And how far that ice goes, no one knows. Admiral Byrd explored it. They say there's another continent on the other side of it, so there could be tons of other melted out, puddles. I don't know. NASA.
Well, he also said it was access to an inner world as well.
Yeah, so there could be access to something underground. Maybe that goes into the hollow earth thing. I don't know. It's great mysteries about what's underneath. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to really point out the first quote that you took. It's pretty good. It's a mark of an intelligent mind to entertain a thought without accepting it, because there's so much information in the world that you never really know exactly what it is there. If you've heard something so much, you don't really know. You're going to automatically associate that with a positive whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So I had just a question to have more information. Obviously, I'm open to absolutely everything as long as everything's concise, of course.
Right.
But you were saying the disk is completely flat, or does it rotate and the sun goes around, or how did?
I'm saying we're flat and motionless. We do not move whatsoever. Okay. The sun and the moon and the stars are moving. Okay. Nothing else.
Is there something that we think that's causing them to move?
Yes, the magnetic North Pole in the center is still magnetic. Compasses point north. I believe personally, there's obviously no proof to this, but I believe that the sun and the moon are held in magnetically around that, and that's why everything rotates perfectly around that centerpiece. So I think that's all intertwined. Electromagnetism is what we have, I believe, instead of gravity that explains a lot of what we've got going on here. So density, buoyancy, things float, things fall because they're heavy, and electromagnetism. Oh yeah, NASA, my favorite part. Oh boy. If anybody knows about the moon stuff, moon landing things, that's a whole other topic. But how many pictures of Earth do you think that we have of this ball right here? We've got 20,000 satellites have been up there for decades. We've been to the moon. We've got rovers on Mars. We've got all this technology, these iPhones, and who knows what kind of technology they got, right? How many full, complete pictures of our Earth do you think that we have? How many real, authentic pictures? Anybody have a guess?
5.
5? That's it? All those satellites for all those years?
We have 0.
0? You think none? Okay.
None.
All right, so we got 5 and 0. I'll tell you the answer. The answer is yes, 0, none. Never taken a picture of the Earth. Why not? Anyone? Why not?
We can't get past the firmament.
Well, there's a good answer. But, it's mind-blowing. This is the most mind-blowing thing to me about the whole topic. The curvature, you can go out and try to prove with the math. The spin, you can observe and do your best to try to determine whether you feel that's happening. But this is ridiculous. Think about the selfies. Think about the technology. We have the ability to take all these epic pictures, and we don't have one. This is not my words. This is not my words. This is NASA's words. Here is Mr. Robert Simon, the data visualizer and designer for NASA. He said, well, it's photoshopped, but it has to be. Well, why? Can't you just turn one of them satellites around and take a picture? I mean, hell, we should have live feed. I should be able to go on TV in my hotel room and put a live feed from a satellite and just watch the Earth spin. There is no official pictures of the Earth. How the hell is that possible? They give it this long explanation. It's on audio. You can look it up. He talks about, we're sent these ribbons of imagery, and the satellites send us these, and we have to take the photos in this composite thing and put it in Photoshop, and we touch up the oceans, and they create it. It's Photoshopped. They've never been able to take a picture of the Earth, and I think that is very telling. For some reason, they can't. They not get high enough. Maybe it doesn't look like that. Maybe that's the problem. So, as you can see here, every time we do get a picture that they admit is computer generated, it looks different every single time. From 07 to 12, as you can see, America got 3 times bigger. I didn't know we grew. That's cool stuff. We grew in like 5 years. We grew 3 times the size. No one told us, but we grew. Thanks to NASA's pretty pictures. But they admit these are fake, so that's clearly why they all look different. Like I said, we should have a live feed. We should have something. If we went to the moon in the 60s, we sent that tin can up there. We should be able to book a hotel on the moon or something. Like, I'm talking about no real pictures, and that's just mind-blowing to me. If you take the famous Earthrise, This is not a complete shot of the Earth. NASA claims this is real. This is from the Apollo mission. If you take this picture, take it into Photoshop, bring the settings down just a little bit, touch it up, you can see the box. They Photoshopped it in. It's very, very obvious. You can take most of their photos and do this exact very thing. And when they tell you that they create their pictures, it makes perfect sense that their stuff is created. Matthew Boylan's a NASA whistleblower. He used to draw the Earth before they did the CGI stuff. He touched it up with a paintbrush. They would just give him a bunch of pictures and tell him how to do it. He is now a whistleblower. You can look him up, and he speaks out about this as well. So all their pictures are fake, and they admit that of a complete Earth. And sometimes a picture says it all. Here we have astronauts in a deep pool. Looks like this is probably the ISS. But they're just training. We're just training. Well, then how come when we see ISS footage, there's bubbles coming out of their mask? You can look this up. Multiple times they've been caught. Bubbles coming out. Bubbles in space. Also news. America grew in 5 years, and we got bubbles in space now. I didn't know there was water right there. But yeah, so the bubbles come out of their mask because they're filming all the ISS footage underwater in a tank like this. And it's very, it's almost insulting when you start looking at the NASA footage, because when you see how poorly it's done and they've taken trillions of dollars and they can't even do a really, really good job. I mean, I've seen movies that, you've seen the movie like Interstellar. I mean, hell, that looks real. It looks like he's really out there. So if you don't think they could pull it off, but they definitely sure tried to. This is the astronauts that went to the moon. Here's a before, them smiling. This is when they were done. I don't know about you guys. These look like they're about to get like a life sentence or something. They just got back from the moon. Like, you just did the most incredible thing ever. And you look like you're about to be in the principal's office.
When you watch that,
watch this
and
video.
Neil Armstrong, when he's talking, he kind of stutters a little bit, and you could just tell that someone gave him a line like dead it or cut, and then he would like switch his shit, huh?
The actor video.
The actual video of them sitting there, of their return and the debriefing and the press conference when they just came from a planet or moon, a satellite, and hit back Earth. There should be explosions and confetti and celebration and happiness. Wow, we did it, great, But no, they were up there tight asses because they had like 100 snipers on them, not literally, but many eyes on them. And when he's talking, and he was told specifically before going out there, all of them were told to stay in the lines of what you're supposed to say and what you're not supposed to say. And anytime you get thrown off, it's why, like, when you watch it a few times and you keep that in your mind and you watch it, you can definitely tell that he was being signaled to like divert his conversation.
Yeah, you could probably just look up
moon landing debriefing. Neil Armstrong. Yeah, you'll have to click around and find it.
Yeah.
Oh, Alex wants to.
Yeah, Justin.
Yeah.
I would also like to point out that all of these astronauts are Freemasons.
Yes.
Every single.
That's another thing.
You gotta be in the big secret club
into.
to go into the, what I mean?
Yeah, like if you guys listen to B.o.B, he's a rapper. He speaks about NASA a lot now. I like listening to him because he talks about this. And he talks about, to blast off, you got to practice Freemasonry, an acronym that stands for not a space agency.
And also, the MTV Movies Awards, they give you a little moon man.
Yes! You get a moon man for being the best actor. The irony. Wow, the irony there. So these guys.
Who said that? Who brought that up?
They do. They give him a moon man.
Actually, one of the greatest actors in the world.
The best actor. Nice. So a lot of people call them assholes. Some people call them actronauts. So there's a lot of names for them. But the only thing that NASA is sending to space is your imagination, I hate to tell you.
Quick question over here, Sharon.
Yes. Sorry, the lights are, I can't even see you guys.
Really? Okay. Here's my question. I'm listening to what you're saying and I'm observing things. I've seen a couple other videos, but I still have to this is what I have to do, Q&A.
Yes.
What about telescopes? Super-powered telescopes that are located, there's one huge one in Germany. They have them all around.
Right.
And a lot of the times, they're looking at measurements, and even through time, they're looking at the stars, they're looking at locations. Now that these superpowered ones, they say they look out into space.
Right.
But then we don't have space.
Right.
I don't understand.
I see what you're saying. And my biggest issue, I guess I would say with that is we have satellites that can take pictures from 11 million light years away, but we can't take a picture of the Earth. What? So show me the 11 million mile camera. I'm sorry, the 11 million light year camera. That is just, to me, I think it's ludicrous to think that they can tell me about something that's light years away. They've never been there. no one's been there. They're telling us things that are unimaginable distances away. If they can take all those pictures of those, why can't they take one of Earth? You know, would be my question. And I see what you're saying about the telescopes and stuff around the Earth. Those are still there.
They're supposed to be
What's that?
They're supposed to be, what I understand, I'm not an astronaut.
But remember, also, any imaging from that is going to be filtered through the higher-ups to allow what's allowed to be given to the public for the conditioning.
So if you look at planetarium, because you can go to Troy, right? They're in Broward County.
Yeah.
They have telescopes. They talk about looking into them and you can see the stars.
Yeah, they tell us all about it.
A star could be just an energy or just losing light.
And I'm not saying you're seeing things, you know, that stuff's up there. It's just maybe not what they've been told it is necessarily.
So when I look into the telescopes I've got before, and I'm looking at stars, they're closer than you think appear like
Oh yeah, maybe I should mention that too. Well, part of the yes, I see what you're saying. The theory also means the stars, the sun and moon are all close. They're all local. The sun is not 93 million miles. The stars are not light years away. They're very local in our sky. I can hardly read the score on the TV at home. I highly doubt my eyes can see light years. But I mean, I guess they can be that bright or big. But what I'm saying is it's all close. It's all local. We're the centerpiece of it. And this is just our heavenly stuff moving above us. So yeah, that's what you see. You're still seeing stars. You're still seeing the planets and things. It's just
You're still that relative distance.
not exactly how they're not exactly I think designed how they say they are and where they say they are. You know, I'm not going to take your horoscopes and your aliens and all this cool stuff away. It's still out there. It's still real. Like the stuff's still moving in those and that stuff. You know, obviously women in the moon thing. Like the stuff's still going on, but I don't think that we could land on these
Thank you for
places.
not crushing the tree.
I just googled pictures of the Earth from the satellite, and there are so many different pictures. So
Yeah, they admit they're fake. They admit they're fake. They said it. I didn't. Yeah, that's them. So you can take it up with NASA, call and be like, "How come all the pictures are fake?" Well, they'll say it's photoshopped, but it has to be.
He's not saying there's not pictures. He's saying that the pictures that
They're
you're
not
seeing
real.
they're not real. They're CGI, computer edited.
Yeah, they're designing them in a computer program. That's all I'm saying.
So are they claiming the mission to the moon was
Yeah, nobody's going up there.
fake?
No one's going to the moon. No one's landing on any.
No, I mean I heard that theory that nobody went there, but is NASA saying that? Are they admitting?
Oh no, they're not
went
admitting
there?
that. They won't admit that. It's funny now that you bring that up. You know what they do admit is NASA's been caught admitting 5 times now, I believe, that they can't leave low Earth orbit. So that's not very high, and the moon is way out of lower Earth orbit, and they talk about it many times. You know, we're working on this spacecraft, and hopefully, you know, we'll be able to send humans out of lower Earth orbit. Hopefully, we'll be able to send humans. Didn't you do it in 1969? I mean, so they catch themselves. They've never been out of low Earth orbit, and they can't because probably the Van Allen radiation belt. Some people think the Van Allen radiation belt is the firmament, the dome we can't get through. If you ask them about the Van Allen radiation belt, they say it's this dangerous sea of radiation that we can't send humans through. It's impossible, but they went right on through in 1969. So
That they said, remember a while back when it was the 80s, remember the 6 or 7 astronauts?
Challenger. Yeah.
They said all died and
Yeah.
they're all living?
I got pictures of them as old guys on here. I'll show them in a second.
So what about the mission to Mars?
Filmed in Greenland, probably. Germany.
No, I know it hasn't happened yet, but everybody's claiming that
Oh
they're
yeah.
going to Mars.
I think the going to Mars will be sort of like going to the moon. Maybe they'll film in the Hollywood basement again. But for the most part,
We were just talking about that.
Space travel. Have you guys noticed how long space travel's been coming? Coming soon. We're going to space. We're sending humans. Elon's sending somebody up there. No, push back, push back, push back. It's been like 20, 25 years now since we were supposed to start getting them up there, and I can assure you that will be coming soon for quite some time, in my opinion. Go ahead.
I'm not an expert, but isn't the logo for Photoshop an astronaut?
I don't know.
You know, like a little astronaut.
I don't know.
It's just a PS.
Show them the UN logo.
Wait, how hot is the sun then?
How on earth would I know that, bro? Oh, you mean according to the theory?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were just asking me. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, I've never been there.
I mean, the thing is, like, if the sun is so close, how would you, like, what happens with solar flares?
Probably solar flares. Probably just. I haven't looked into solar flares. I don't really know what the sun's made of or what it's doing. I don't want to say they're BS. That could just be another story about space.
Did you talk about hotspots?
No, I could when we get to it. I don't
Hey,
want to like cut
hey,
off your
quick
questions,
question.
but I want
So
to.
you're suggesting that we've never been into space as astronauts ever?
Not out of low Earth orbit, not past the firmament, not past the ramp bound.
Like into space, just into space.
Yeah, like outer space. Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
All right.
yeah.
Because 2 weeks ago I was in a race and I met Marcos Pontes, which is one of the Brazilian astronauts.
Oh yeah.
And he told me exactly and how he wore the $16 million suit that they wear.
Nice.
How he went up to International Space Station with the Russian.
Yeah.
He's only been once.
Nice. Did he have a Freemason ring on?
No, he did not when I saw him.
I'm kidding, but he.
I know.
Yeah.
Again,
No, that's a good.
Not
That's
many people have met
interesting.
an astronaut, or you know,
Yeah,
somebody
right.
who claims to be an astronaut, and who had all the proof of it and everything else.
Yeah, you should see the guys that really talk about this flat Earth stuff and get really wild about it. They hunt these astronauts down and confront them, and they're like, "I want you to swear on the Bible right now that you walked on the moon." And like they hound them. It's they get a little ridiculous with it, but it's just like, man, these guys are really old now, and if they really were told to lie, they probably just want to be left alone and not have their families killed or whatever. You guys wonder where they're going when they go to space? I'll tell you where they go. You see this curve? They found the curve, right? NASA found the curve. This rocket takes off and it goes right over here. Right over here, shooting it right over on the water. Why do they scrub them so much? Probably because someone is out there, possibly going to see it. It doesn't go right up into space. It either just goes over like this, or it goes out horizontal for a little while, and then it goes down. So, like I said,
Don't they have a space station in Florida?
Yeah, they have Kennedy Space Center. Yeah.
I want to see you guys go there and just film it.
I kind of want to go and take a tour and just ask a lot of questions, just not be that, say that I believe in this stuff, but just like ask real questions and see what they say. Because
the journalist side.
the stuff that I'm telling you guys, when you go look it up, what they say, some of the anomalies that we have with our spin or our tilt or the stuff in space, the explanations are just cash. I mean, some of them is just this long, like, jargon scientific thing, and you're like, oh wow, that's over my head, must be true. Or it just sounds kind of funny, like, the atmosphere just magically sticks and spins with us.
I've actually been to the Cape Canaveral with the John Kennedy Space Center or something, and I actually watched a rocket launch and it did the exact same shape.
It did this?
It looks like they're just trying to toss in the ocean, honestly.
Yeah, they shoot it right on
They
the
had a
ocean.
satellite on it allegedly, so it's like, bro,
I know.
wasting like
Good call on that. Another thing they do is you've seen the videos of rockets take off. We've seen hundreds of them. Then we supposedly see them up in space sometimes. They send us their videos. Never, ever, ever will you see it exit the atmosphere or re-enter the atmosphere. Never. It's just because they can't show you a full video because it's not going up there. It's just going over into the water.
So where does it land? Does it
Where does it land? Just over there in the water. Yeah. There's probably no one on it. They just shoot it over there, pick it up, and take it back. No big deal. So if you're wondering if they're not, who's on these things? Well, this is the Challenger explosion.
Yeah.
Well, who's this guy and who's this guy? These people are all alive. I can't find this guy apparently. This is actually an incorrect picture too, so don't quote me on this lady. This is another astronaut, but this is not this astronaut. So whoever made this picture, this is incorrect with her. But if you focus on these 4 people, at least 4 of them are still alive and walking. We'll just stick to them. I looked these 2 guys up. They do. Some of them work at university with the same name. How dumb do they think we are? Some of them change their name, use their middle name, but they have the same name. It's the exact same person. So the Challenger explosion, that sad story about those people passing away, it looks like they probably didn't. Once I guess NASA showed that you can rake in trillions of dollars from the people and send them back pretty pictures, everyone else got in on the jig too. We got European, we got Japan, we've got Australia, and they all look different, and they all admit that that they're not real. Yes.
I just wanted to bring up before when you had the picture of the rockets going up.
Yes.
The thing about jet propulsion and how it can't work in a vacuum because there's no air to push off of.
Oh.
Just a thought for everyone to.
That's another good thought. If you guys think about how like jet engine, I know I'm not an expert on this, so that's why I don't probably bring it up.
Water,
yes.
Push air like that. In space, it's a vacuum. It's nothingness.
So like imagine
there's nothing for it to push off of. It would just stand there, and the fire would shoot out the back of it.
It'd be like if you got into space and you're just
like they say it is.
toppling around, I guess, and you're in the space world, and you're just like, all right, guys, let's head home, and you're just gonna fire the rocket booster up. What's it gonna? You're just gonna keep toppling around. Like, what are you gonna push off of? It's a vacuum of nothingness, except there's bubbles sometimes. But so yeah, it's interesting to think about how some of those things work in the vacuum because they don't. But yeah, everybody started sending back pictures and everyone started their own space programs. If you look into the vector symbology, this is other stuff I don't get into much, but the symbology of NASA's symbol looks like a serpent tongue. But that vector is in like every single spacesuit, every mission, every logo, and the other countries use it as well. So this really begs the question too, what does this tell you? If all the countries can agree on Antarctica and all the countries can agree on fake space travel, why are we at war? Why are we fighting with them? You know, it makes so what's going on, you know, behind the bigger curtain?
Not to move on, but so all these people that apparently died in the Challenger but are still alive today, what's the story? Is anybody talking to them? Are they talking
that's
out?
Good.
Like what?
I honestly wanted to call one of them, but I've heard of people calling people that are involved with false flags and they get like harassed bad, so I didn't want to call him. But I'm tempted to call the university because his name and stuff's all right there. I'm like, man, I want to be like, just, hey man, there's this stuff going around about, you know, and just act like it's a theory and try to see what they say. That would be interesting to do.
I'm in.
Don't call them?
No, let's go. I'm in.
Okay, we'll call them.
I don't know. I just feel like for me, when I think about it, I would think that if such a hoax was happening, they would be being harassed.
Right.
If people knew, though, that was the truth. It's just like Sandy Hook, the Boston bombing, and all these other ones, where you see the girl crying on her phone and she's been in like 6 different false flags. So it's because she's a CIA agent, whatever she might be. You can't even get a hold of her probably first off and stuff. And they use these people multiple times.
And you got to remember too with this, think about how taboo this is. This is not being talked about very much at all. So the amount of people calling like people who are maybe in on 9/11 or something is probably way more than people trying to catch these astronauts.
Right.
You know?
So I agree with that, but and we were a little late, so I'm guessing this is a flat Earth.
Yeah. Flat and motionless.
Right.
Yep.
So if that's the case, and we can see these stars, thank you, all the way out there wherever they are.
They're much closer than they tell
Much
us.
closer,
Okay.
right? But why, when I look out of the horizon, I can only see 3 miles away?
That's just based on our vision. The way our eyes see.
So you're saying the stars are 3 miles away?
No. You can only see so far out, like in the distance on like on the water.
It's like 2 to 3 miles.
But is that
Yeah,
because
it's
the
about-
Earth curves naturally, like how they
It
told
could
us?
also be light reflection too. When you're looking out on the ocean, water reflects light. So
There's a lot of questions about that. So most people would say immediately, okay, well if the Earth is flat, I should be able to see clear across the ocean to Europe, right, from the East Coast. Well, just because the Earth's flat don't mean you have superhuman vision. I mean,
No, I get
for
that,
one,
we've been to places like Costa Rica, right, where I can
Right.
see a mountain and I'm like 20 miles away
They say
from
that
it.
there's views that you have mountain views of 30 to 40 miles, right?
Right.
Or you can see a jet plane in the air that's 32,000 feet, but if you do the math, it's still more than 2 to 3 miles.
Remember, like what you're talking about, everything you're talking about, and I've done my traveling as well and whatnot, none of those things reflect light. Land doesn't reflect light, water reflects light. So that's probably why, just theory, why we can't see that far into the ocean, because ocean reflects light.
The other thing
when
you
you're
have to
looking at
remember too
greenery,
is-
brown, any land mass, it's not reflecting it, it's not blocking your vision. Looking into the sky, clear sky, nothing blocking your vision unless there's a cloud. You know, water reflects light.
And not to backtrack anyone, but what happens past the ice?
That's unknown. Nobody knows. No one's allowed to go there. There's a treaty, and if you go there, you're met with military force.
50
and
nations.
They don't let you go there. It's forbidden. That's a great question to know. Another thing too with seeing out that far is a lot of times it's just the atmosphere. You've got smog, you've got clouds, you've got rain. All these different things would hinder our vision.
Hey, if we don't know that, how do we know anything?
If we don't know what?
I said that. What happens after the ice wall? If we don't know that, then how do we know anything?
Well,
we don't know anything that we're talking about.
We don't.
So
how do we know that
just
our
because
parents
we
are our
don't,
parents?
just
our name is our name.
All right, well let's get chills over. Then everybody go home. Don't ask any questions about anything for the rest of your life. No, I understand what you're saying. It's. I mean, but just because we don't know what's on the other end of the ice wall doesn't, I mean, we can't explore these other topics. Did you want to say?
Yeah, I'm going to say something. When he's done, I'm going to read a post of mine that I did because I'm on the fence with this. So maybe this will kind of grasp your attention, and it's a little bit against the flat Earth. But my personal views, I do kind of view the Earth as being flat because a lot of this makes sense. But I'm just going to break down my views because you kind of touched on it in the beginning with how small things are. And I look at things as a reflection of everything, as we usually do in a universal way of looking, how everything reflects one another. So after he's done, I'm going to give a different perspective on what he's saying. So I might kind of answer some of your questions.
But yeah, jumping back into just so we don't take too much time on one thing. If you notice another NASA picture, I'm pretty much done with NASA now. It's just the Earthrise from '68. Look at how little it is. They took a picture from the same place in 2015. You see how big it is. So it just
grew again, man.
It just goes to show we either keep growing, we can't stop growing, or their pictures they just don't take a whole lot of time to remember what they used to show us. So
maybe
it's
different
comical.
distance.
The moon and the Earth, it's not. I mean, we're on the moon and the Earth. I don't think the variation of the moon and the Earth is enough to make the Earth look 60 sometimes bigger.
Yeah, when the guys.
But that's a good point.
When
though.
the guys were
Ryan
in
put it
Hoboken
like-
filming 9/11, if they moved back like a couple hundred feet, the buildings are still going to look the same.
Yeah, but almost on the
Same
same,
thing here.
on the flip side of what you were saying, you talk about light, how it refracts, and different depth perceptions, and it could be the same thing here, right? Or,
Kind of, but like earlier we talked about 9/11, right? And you know how the Israelis were filming it in Hoboken? So if they were filming it on the edge of the cliff and they moved back 200 yards and filmed 9/11 again, it'd pretty much be the same size. It's not going to vary that much in
Yeah,
size.
see, if you notice just how drastic the change is what I'm just trying to point out there. And once again, you know, I'm not trying to say NASA fakes everything, but they, the complete pictures of the Earth they emit, and there is one video of the Earth spinning. So that would have been another proof of the Earth's spin. Maybe we have a video of it. There is one video, but they forgot to move the clouds. The Earth does like this whole rotation and the clouds stay in the exact same place. It's a pretty bad video. I know somebody who researches this and made one in about 5 minutes just like it. So it's very simple to replicate what they do.
What about like how we look at the moon? It's a full moon versus like a half moon versus like a sliver.
The
What if the
phases?
same thing from the moon happens to the Earth?
And
that's why you saw half an Earth and a whole Earth.
I'm still
Oh, I'm not
confused
worried about
because
the half
what
and
is
the whole.
this
I meant the
picture
size.
actually?
Oh, the size.
What is
Okay.
this picture actually telling us? Is this picture?
Well, okay, here, I'll explain a little
Yeah,
more.
explain the
This
picture
is the
more.
Apollo mission in '68. They're standing on the moon. They took a picture of the Earth.
From the exact same spot on the moon to the Earth?
Not necessarily, no. But
is it the exact same place, exact
I-
same time?
I'll be honest, I have no idea where on the moon this is taken from, but I think regardless of the variation of the moon and Earth and where you're at, the difference, it's like it's, you know.
But I thought we haven't gone back to the moon in a while.
Yeah, we haven't. Well, I don't think we've been to. This is also officially saying they went there.
It was kind of boring.
Right. So they said they went there back then, but then where is that being taken from?
This is from the moon as well, from a rover. No people went this time, supposedly.
Okay.
That's what that is. So, like, since NASA has so much fakery with the bubbles and admitting the CGI stuff, no pictures of the Earth, I kind of just joke people about. NASA comes out and tells us about this black hole 8 million miles away in light years. How the hell do you know what's going on out there? Well, we found all these new planets. Yeah, right, dog. You don't even have a picture of the Earth. So if you guys can keep telling me these great magical fantasy stories about things millions of light years away, but I'd love if you could just turn that camera around once and give me a picture of the Earth. You can't do it. UN flag.
Yeah.
That is as you can see, is exactly what you guys are holding. That is the flat Earth on the UN flag. I'm not saying this proves anything. I'm just pointing this out and we go into a little bit of the kind of the where it's littered throughout the world and stuff. As you can see, they look exactly the same. Showing the outer ring here.
So are you saying there's no like universe?
No, not at all. There's the stars. There's all that stuff going on. I'm just saying it's not as the way they've told us. It's not maybe as far off. It's close and local. We have a dome.
Do you talk to NASA people about this?
What's that?
Do you talk to NASA people about your theories?
No, I do not have any NASA friends. No, sorry.
Did you talk to Israeli government
If I
about
called,
what they're doing terrorists?
If I called NASA, they would probably say, "What are you talking about, man?" And laugh and hang up. So.
I literally told you I talked to I talked to air marshals, military personnel. I know local whistleblowers that can prove, but you're sitting here arguing me that Israel doesn't create terrorism.
What?
Terrorism. Yeah, we had this argument before.
Zionism, bro.
So vice versa, brother.
Well, anyways, let's keep on target.
So basically, the whole idea is to not give us a meaning.
Yes, essentially that is what the why is there for. One is obviously lots of money. The money doesn't come in until NASA gets involved. 50 years ago, it says, we're going to take your trillions of dollars and send you pictures back that aren't real. So money nowadays, back then I guess when this age-old deception was thrusted upon us 400 years ago, was to make us feel meaningless, like she explained, in just a random universe of millions of possibilities.
So you're saying people like Newton, Einstein, basically they were not...
Yeah, Copernicus, Newton, the gravity guys, the ball earth guys, they're all, I don't want to say full of it, maybe they were but they foisted this on us, so they were probably paid. Probably lots of money.
It's just like what's his
down
name
on
today,
stuff.
Neil deGrasse.
It's just like buying science in other areas. We buy science with GMOs, they buy science to push things on us. They bought a little bit of science here and foisted this on us.
I mean, just to kind of extend what he's saying, I don't necessarily think that this is intended to necessarily like put us in a universe of no meaning of life.
Right.
Because I personally subscribe to a universe where gravity is in effect and there are like round objects. But I don't think that pulls me away from understanding the universe as some kind of like godless or like like lightful like kind of universe. Because I think that it does matter. We do leave ourselves out of the factor that we externalize everything. We don't comfort ourselves and like our own perceptions and understandings of the world. So we kind of base our own reality and philosophy on everything around us without like kind of thinking about ourselves and saying, you know what?
Yeah.
These are possible things, but you know what else is possible? What's inside? So it's like if we can't like validate anything outside of us, then like there's no validation inside. So I think rather than trying to prove this right or wrong to validate life in existence, it's like we need to keep both factors in play.
No, you're totally right. Like I agree with you because without this knowledge of this topic, whether I bought into it or not, I didn't feel meaningless, purposeless. I still had, but I think the people in this room may have a little bit more of an advantage. We are a little more, aware of what's going on in the world, and a little more conscious, maybe not to diss on anyone else out there, like we're better in any way. But you know what I mean? We're a little more open to this, I think, and
it's
we
kind of
would
like
feel,
what you're saying. We're more looking inside of ourselves for the answer.
Yeah, already.
We're searching for the answer.
You were already
right now.
doing that without someone needing to tell you. Now, there could be a lot of people that have existed on this world that maybe there's a subconscious thought because we're just some randomness out here, this is just the hell with it. So maybe it's working on some people, it didn't work on you, great, if that's the reason why. But anyways, back to there's multiple people, not only the UN, the Meteorological Organization, the Aviation, Maritime Organization, they all use the flat Earth looking map.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Can you go back to the
Yeah.
If the Earth really looks like that and is surrounded by a cape of ice,
Yes.
then how can there be so much difference in different places when it comes to climate? Because you can't put a glacier in Africa because of the heat.
Yeah, basically, I'll kind of go to that a little too more later with the sun. The sun is doing the circle around it, and it's at the equator, and it does a tighter circle. And that's when it's closer to America and our summer months, and then it goes out wider. So there's ice in the middle where the sun does not go, and there's ice on the outside where the sun doesn't go. So the rings that the sun are doing is like melted out.
Is it like a Fibonacci sequence?
Yeah, it kind of is in a way, because it's really interesting how the sun and the moon work in this, because if they do, they're not only circling like this, but they're changing their height, and they're almost kind of intertwining like almost an 8 in this really interesting way if you look at how they go. And if you look at time lapses of the sun and the moon, you can tell that they're doing this curve. And the sun doesn't set in the Arctic for a couple months, and that's because it's doing that really tight circle, and it never goes out of your distance. I'm going to talk about the sun setting in a second. That might not make sense yet. I'm surprised you guys haven't asked how the sun rises and sets.
No, I asked.
Yeah, you did. That's right. We'll get to it.
He was messaging me on Instagram for like 3 weeks.
So it's littered throughout history. You'll find people trying to explore the ice wall. You'll see it as you see the Hebrew, the Hindu, Egyptian. They've got this flat middle piece and this dome over top of it. Flat middle piece, dome over top. Flat middle, dome over top. Until you get this ball from NASA. And they admit that this is fake. So they can't prove this. It's real. And everybody else thought it a little differently. What happened here? Is just one of the questions I asked. It's just another example of the ancient Hebrew conception. There's a lot of stuff in the Bible about the earth being flat. I was not brought up religious. I don't know much about the Bible. I don't talk about that because of that. But if you'd like to, they talk about the firmament, the water existing above, and the floodgates. And God made the sun, the moon, and the stars within the firmament. I mean, this stuff's in there if you want to take a look at it. There's another famous old flat earth map, the Gleason's map. This is one of the most popular ones. It says here, as is, world map as is. So it's just giving you examples that this has never really died down. And what's interesting to me too is if you think about it, no one's having a meeting or an argument or a debate about whether what's a given, like the sky's blue. I'm not gonna present anything because I have no basis on that. If this wasn't a debate, if there was no, it would, you see what I'm trying to say? Like this is a topic of conversation, so it's not settled. The court is still out on this, you know what I mean? Like, this is not just so matter of fact. It almost is. I could almost get laughed off the stage for bringing this up, but this is still debatable. So that should just give you a little insight, so maybe there could be something to it. Outside the ice wall, you were asking? Admiral Byrd said they explored past the ice wall and found a continent the size of America out there. Maybe this is what they found. Maybe there's tons of these. Maybe there's 1 million of these puddles. Maybe there are still millions of things out here, but it still makes us the center of this one with these things above us. So it's like it's ours, and it rotates around us. This is like a Japanese priest, I think, was given to this. This is supposedly from centuries ago. So just once again, more examples of it later. This is a 1930s newspaper. You can find it in the 30s, 40s. People were saying, I'm going to find the ice wall and I will trek all the way around. And they would talk about it. And they would even put this stuff in old local newspapers. It's crazy. So it's been around for a very long time. Flight paths, I'm just going to kind of run through this. I don't like using this point a lot. It's good to talk about, but it's like you get into circular arguments about it because there's so many possibilities with it. But the basis of it is there's no real flight paths on the southern hemisphere. Well, why would that be? Well, maybe because the southern hemisphere is all the way around the edge, and it takes a long time to get from here to over here. So if you look at the globe map, people fly from Australia, and they want to come over here to South America. Well, they go all the way up through the country and back down. The hell? Why didn't you just go? You could just direct flight. Nope. There's no direct flights in the southern hemisphere. Maybe one or two, but I'll tell you about those in a second. You go all the way out of the way, all the way through the country and back down. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Totally out of the way. Well, if we put it on a flat map, what's halfway between these two? This is America right here. There's America. It's the halfway point. You have to stop there. That's why there's no direct flights, because you can't fly from this end to this end without stopping in the middle. So all your southern hemisphere flights look all jagged on a globe. Put it on a flat map, and it's a perfectly straight line. You can do this with tons of examples. I tried to book a direct flight from one of these, and it's like one day of the week, 26-hour layover. It's just ridiculous. And then it's expensive, and you're like, no one's going to pick this. And I've heard rumors say that if you try to pick it, it's either full or they cancel it. I've never gone all the way through with it, but I hear it's tough. I mean, there is maybe a flight or two, but when you've got 99% of flights all up here and none down here, why would they?
I mean, you just.
Okay, I have explanation.
Yeah, so they say they like to fly over land more than they like to fly over water in case something happens and they have to like land, like emergency landing.
This is
I
explanation
haven't
she
heard
gave
that, but
you.
that's possible.
She gave you explanation that this is why it's happened, and like you.
I think it's also a matter of business. I mean, there's more
Yeah,
people
exactly.
there.
I guess like we fly a lot, and that's what they.
And that's another thing why I don't go with this topic too much, because you could argue the hubs, you could maybe say it's safer to go over one, things like that. That's true, but they fly over this water. You know, I don't know why they don't fly over this water. But when they're so far out of the way, and they're perfect on this one, it just makes you kind of wonder why they don't have those flights. Like for instance, we had an emergency landing. This woman was going to have a baby. You can check out this article. It was going from the Philippines to San Francisco. Well, they did an emergency landing. They went all the way up here to Alaska. Well, hell, if you're going to go all the way up there, you might as well just went all the way to thing or went back. But they decided to go all the way up here to Alaska. It doesn't really make a lot of sense unless you put it on a flat map. Guess what's right in between the Philippines and LA is Alaska. So the flight paths match up perfectly on a flat map, and they go completely out of the way and do these triangle motions with the globe. So that's why the flight paths don't add up.
But to believe that, wouldn't we have to think then that pilots are in on it?
No, because
They just don't know.
you get in the plane, you fly from point A to point B, you land. I mean, there's really no more to it. You know the Earth's a globe. You know, you've got no question, you've got no reason to question that. And you know, you got to assume most people walking around have never thought, is this really a globe? Like, you know, just out of the blue. It does make me wonder though, because you would think maybe pilots would be like, something would come to them one day. Like, how come it doesn't appear this way?
My father, 14 years in the Air Force, he still can't prove to me that the Earth has a curvature.
So you have this fight with them?
Yeah, I know United States Air Marshals, they spend 80% of their day in the sky. Can't prove to me that there's a curvature. I've talked to two astronauts through Collective Evolution. I'm not sure if you heard of them. I've talked to them through them. They can't prove to me that there's a curve.
Yeah.
So we started, I guess like a long time ago, thinking the Earth was flat. And then they said, no, the Earth is round, and a lot of people died over this. So why did they want us to believe the Earth was round?
Oh, you missed the best comment
I
of the
did,
day.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, she told, it was the thing
It's
about us
limitless.
being, making us a random accident insignificant.
It's
Like there's
taking
millions of
power
universes,
away from
millions of planets. We're just one of them. We could get hit by an asteroid tomorrow, it could all be over. There's no significance. It makes you feel
But if we're flat,
small.
we are significant?
But if we're the centerpiece, everything revolves around us. We don't move. We're not just flying through random space and not some random accident. We are created here, and we are the centerpiece. So
it's like a deeper message into your subconscious. Not so obvious.
Spirituality, you know, inner peace, everything comes from here, what's in here. All this is
that
a
is the why.
Same thing on a bigger level. If it's like that on a smaller level, it's going to be like that on a bigger level.
So would you still believe in afterlife in this?
Yeah.
I'm not taking
But
that
it's
stuff
energy.
away.
It's still
I can have
energy.
all that stuff. I just want to take away space travel as they say it. I want to take your gravity and I want to take your spinning space ball. That's all I want to take. You can have your aliens and the universe still. Maybe the universe is still out there, but I don't think it's so far as the way they're describing it. Maybe that's all I would say. The sun and the moon. If you notice, the sun and the moon appear to be the exact same size. Full moon tonight. Go out, check it out. Notice when the sun goes up tomorrow, they're going to look the same size. Why is that? Well, one's 93 million miles away. One's only 200-something thousand miles away.
The sun is bigger.
Yes.
What's they tell you?
They tell us that, but I'm going to tell you that it's the same exact size and the same distance away. If one's 93 million miles, one's 200,000 miles, they just happen to look exactly the same. One is 850,000 miles in diameter, the sun, and this one's only 2,000 miles in diameter. Astronomically different size and distances away, but they appear to be just coincidentally exactly alike. Well, I would tell you that because they are. We got a daylight and a nightlight, yin and yang, equal opposite reactions. Day, night, sun, moon, they're the same size, they're local in our sky. Why doesn't the sun out all day if it's up here and it doesn't go over the horizon? Like I was telling you earlier, it's like a spotlight. It's not this far distant star. Just think of it as your light, daylight or nightlight. They just rotate above us and we get one each day. Sun goes over, so when you're over here, like I said, it's dark, and the sunlight does not extend that far because it's not as bright and as big and as far away as they tell us. This is how I will explain the sunrise and the sunset. We appear that the sun rises and then sets. Well, it appears to me that this light is setting. This light is not setting. You guys know that that roof of this hallway is not built at a slant. You know the light is not going down. It appears to be going down. The light is setting just like the sun sets. And it is eventually going to disappear when it either gets too far away and meets with the horizon. So, as you can see here, the railways do the same thing. If you're on a highway and you look at the street lights, you notice how it looks like they're going downward. The lights are not getting smaller. They're not going down. It's just the way we see. They appear to be getting smaller until the last one is right at the horizon. It's this little peak and then it goes away. So it's the way we see, it's the perception. It's what we're seeing here with the sun.
When the same thing applies to the sun? When the sun gets smaller, when it's setting?
Yeah, it's perfect. I'm glad you brought that up. Because if you see here, the sun is big and close, and it gets further and smaller. It's not setting, it's just getting further away. Light is close and big, light is far and small. It didn't set. It's still at the same height of that ceiling at the end of the hallway. Remember that. It only appears to set. This sun, I'm telling you, is the same height. It's just getting further away. And eventually it's going to get further away to that, either the end of the hall or the end of the horizon. And then ding, the light is gone.
Yeah, but where does it go?
It goes to the other side of the flat plane. It goes over here. So like this light that's ending right here that you can see, and it's getting smaller and smaller, eventually disappears and goes to the other
But
side.
it doesn't disappear, it sets, like it literally goes down.
It appears to go down. So would you tell me that light is this light going down?
Let me say something real quick.
Or does it appear to go down?
I lived in Alaska for 3 months. The sun never went past the horizon the entire time.
How would you explain
it
that?
went to the horizon, rode the horizon, and came back up. And notice, it didn't come back up over here. It came back up over here. So every day and night for 3 months that I lived in Alaska, the sun came up here, came down here, came up here. Came back around, came up here, came down here.
It doesn't set in that area because it's in that very
day.
tight circle. So as it appears to be coming closer and rising, it's actually just getting larger and closer, and then it's going to get further away. I can demonstrate that with another example. You see all these lights. They're not actually, those lights aren't setting. Those lights are just getting further away from your distance. When you get closer to it, it will appear bigger and closer.
So is that...
I like that you said that about Alaska. I've heard other things about it being dark for 6 months, 3 months.
Yeah, it's dark certain times of the year and it's light certain times of the year.
How is it like that?
And the interesting thing about that with Antarctica and the Arctic, so in the Arctic, the sun is out for 2 or 3 months and it doesn't set. Well, if we lived on a globe and we had these things going on at the top, it would basically be happening at the bottom too at some point, because you know, it's how do you explain that? Well, basically the atmospheres are completely opposite. You get 3 months of no sun in Antarctica. That's because it's doing that tight circle in the Arctic, and he's getting it for 3 months, and then it goes back out to its outer ring, and they get it. So that's what it's doing. It's getting closer and further away in that circle. So as you can see, it's here like a spotlight, like you were saying. It's shining down on these people. Everybody over here, it's nighttime on the other side of the earth. It's kind of that, we're so used to it being this huge thing. You know, they show you those pictures. This is how many Earths can fit in the sun. So you just know it's this massive thing. If you can bring it back down to this level, it's just a little spotlight.
I have another thing. So I don't know if you guys know Dilute the Power on Instagram, fairly large account like mine. He's a partner in my clothing line. He lives in Australia. He's 14 hours difference from me, and we talk about this. So I called him during the day, and I called him 12 hours from now, so it was nighttime, daytime there. We were looking at the moon, and we saw the same side of the moon both times of the day for 2 conversations, and it doesn't make sense.
And he is on this side, and his buddy is on this side. How are they both seeing the same moon?
We saw the same craters, the same everything.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's only one side to the moon.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of them's either Ryan or his buddy is looking through the globe, I guess, or I don't know. But so the sun is shining close. Another proof of the sun close. I'll give you 2 proofs of the sun close. I know I'm just claiming that the sun's close. I'll give you a little bit of proof behind it. These are crepuscular rays, as you can see them coming down at an angle. You guys have seen this. You've taken beautiful sunset pictures. The rays come at this angle. Well, if you notice those rays, the angular rays are going to the point of origin of the light. So like if you were to go out and look at a street light, you would see the rays are coming at this defined angle. If the sun was 92 million miles away, somewhere far off in space, those rays would be, just imagine 90 million miles of sun rays shining. It would be shining this long, millions of miles of vertical ray. And then as soon as it gets down to us, it just spreads out. It wouldn't just totally change like that. And I know this is not as convincing. You need to look up how the light rays work. Yeah. They're going to the point of origin, the crepuscular rays. If you look up that term, it will explain that better. The second proof to why the sun is close is not only it's the way the rays go, but it's been photographed and videoed within the clouds, the sun and the moon. I have personally seen the moon within the clouds now. Reminder, clouds, 3,000 miles away. Sun, 93 million miles away. What the hell is the sun doing in the clouds? You have this cloud running behind it. You have this one running in front of it. So it is within the clouds.
Did you get that from NASA? Or
No. There's lots of these pictures online. You can find many of them. So it begs the question, if it's 93 million miles away, why are the clouds behind it and in front of it? You can see it with the moon much easier, I've noticed. I have not seen this personally, but I've noticed the moon on a, and you got to do it in the months where it's on its tight circle. So like June, July, August, you can see the moon within the clouds. Totally inconsistent with it being hundreds of thousands or millions of miles away.
How do they measure that?
Huh? Oh, so you can measure, I don't have any idea how NASA measures all that stuff, but you can actually measure the sun and the moon's distance and how large it is with sextants and plane trigonometry.
I will add one thing to that, and it's an experiment anybody could actually do. And there is an optical illusion of sorts, more with the moon, but similar to this, right? When there's a full moon, the moon is like lower to the horizon. Right. Therefore, our eyes see the street, the trees, and then that next object in the sky, it makes it as large as the things that are close to it. So here's the experiment. What you do is, you take you could just roll up a piece of paper or whatever, get it really small, and see the full moon, wait for its full moon to do it, and then put it up to the full moon, and it'll be tiny, it'll show its original size.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Fascinating shit right there.
Yeah.
So you throw that in the mix with your shit right there.
I'm gonna do that. So onto the moon. The moon, as you can see, they tell us that the moon is a reflection of the sun. Well, if you ever shine a light off of a spherical object, you get a glare spot, as you can see in these 3 balls. You don't get this bright, go out there tonight, look at that thing. The whole thing is bright, like it's this shining ball. Why is the entire thing shining? If it's a spherical object that's up there and it's reflecting off the sun, we should be some type of reflection like this. You can demonstrate this at home with any type of glass ball you have. So I'm telling you, I forgot to mention this earlier, the moon is not a reflection of the sun. Sorry. But the moon, you can measure. Go get 2 thermometers. I've done this one. I need to do it again so I can have like 5 tests and not just one and say it's proven. But I mean, there's hundreds of YouTube videos, people doing this. This experiment's been done a lot. If you measure the moon temperature, the moonlight, put one of these in the moonlight, and then put one in the moon shade. The moonlight will be colder than the moon shade. So the light is cold. The sunlight is hot. They are opposites. Remember when I told you guys the sun and the moon are close, just like each other, equal opposites? They're opposites. It's not reflecting off of it because the glare doesn't match up. The faces of the moon are always the same and very distinct. I don't know much about what the faces are doing, but you can measure the temperature and it clearly shows you, even multiple degrees, it will change. So the moonlight is cold and the moon shade is up.
I'll touch on that. So you know how he's saying how they spin around us and it's almost like a Fibonacci swirl around us? So it's just the angling of these spheres or whatever you want to call them. And the angle from where we are and where that is what we can see, and that's where it creates that phase as it's going around us. And we can just see corners. Or say they were flat, right? And they are reflective, and this is the Earth, and I have two paper plates here, sun, moon. And as this one angles and this one angles, whatever light is actually hitting this angle, that's the shape that we'd only be able to see. You could do it, you know, it's a simple science experiment. So it could be one of two things. Like
So you're saying the moon and the Earth are also flat?
I don't know what shape the moon
we
is.
don't know.
We can't go. I've never seen the other side of it.
I personally think the moon's a sphere because I have a friend with an extremely good camera. Takes 50 posts on Instagram all the time. Fibonacci, but cosmic.
I've seen pictures of the moon
and you
too,
can
and
start
they
to
appear
see,
to be spherical. It really does.
Yeah.
The sun is obviously too bright to look at the details of it, but the moon, it does appear to be spherical to me and to other people. But like I said, I've never been out there, so I couldn't tell you.
I don't think they have the shape.
What's that?
I don't think they have the shape.
The shape? The shape now?
It's
Maybe
more
they
of
don't.
a, when you look into a hole of a projection, it naturally goes down to a point. So the shape of a point will go circular.
Yeah.
So if you look at a light source, like the sun or the moon, which reflect different temperatures and different light, it's gonna look like a circle.
Yeah, and it's
So
funny
it's
you
not
mention
just a
that.
sphere, it's not flat or ball.
It's like the
It's
stars
just a point.
under a telescope. So if you take a look under like planets under a telescope, it sort of looks like a luminescent like disc with the center point, and it's got that point that you see too, which is strange. Yeah, I'm almost done. Yeah, we'll run through this. Okay, so and this is a picture of the sun not set, or time-lapse pictures. Well, Ryan has experienced this himself, but the sun does not set. As you can see, it just goes down just to the horizon, starts coming right back up. It does not set in the Arctic when it's on its tightest circle. So the sun doesn't set at a part in the Earth. I mean, that's just that's a hard one for them to explain with the ball model. So just further does it. This is the seasons I was telling you about. So when we're in the summer and it doesn't set, it's really close. It's going around and it looks like it's rising. It's just coming closer to you and then going further away. And that's why it doesn't set in the summer. And this is why when it's doing this tight circle, you have complete darkness in Antarctica for like the same amount of time, the 3-month period. So it's totally consistent with how that works. A lot of people say circumnavigation. Well, I've flown around the world. My dad flew around the world. I've been in a boat. You know, people have trekked the world, so it's round, right? Well, just because you went around does not make it a sphere. I can start here, go to here, go to here, go to here, go to here, and go all the way around the flat disk. Boop, went around the world. Does not make it a sphere. This doesn't prove anything either way. It just goes to show that circumnavigation can be done on both models. If we lived on a sphere, you could fly around it. If we live on a flat disk, you can trek around it. It's no different than going up to 4th Street to 8th Street, back down, and doing your circle on your flat disk. So that's essentially what it's doing, and just another joke about it. Just because you run around your neighborhood doesn't make it a ball, a sphere. It just makes it round. If you ran around it doesn't prove either way. Like I said here, so like, I think you're doing this, you're probably just doing this. And if you take your compass and you start heading east, you see that north is this way, and you start to go a little more, north is now this way, and you're going to slowly go around till you get back to your spot.
I'm sorry,
around.
I can.
Yeah,
there are thousands of scientists in Antarctica. There are thousands. They're there.
Right.
They exist. They surround us. They fly there.
Right.
They drove there. Like, what about them? Like,
that's all fine. I'm not taking none of that away from you, bro. The people are there. They're researching. They go to their little research center. They do all their studies and tests, and they do all their stuff. They bring people in, show them the South Pole, and you leave. I mean, what's the problem? You don't know that it's the ring. Why would you think? You think you're at the continent on the bottom, but maybe they're just taking you to the ice wall and showing you around.
like, so all these people that driving from one to place, the ships that surrounded the South Pole, ship surrounded continent, Antarctica.
Yeah.
Like it's fake. It can be fake.
I'm not saying it's fake. It's there. It's just not where they said it was.
Yeah,
Antarctica is not a continent on the bottom of the globe. It's not, I'm saying it's not sitting right here. I'm saying it's the outer edge. That's all.
So what are you saying again that happens when somebody wants to go to the outer edge?
You will be met with military force of whoever's probably in that designated area, and you'll be turned away. There's evidence of that. People trying to do it. They get fined a lot of money, threatened jail time. And told
But
not to
they're
go back.
there to, so we don't fall off?
No, they're there to either keep us from finding out what's out there on the other side, or to, I don't know why. I don't know yet. Maybe there's aliens over there, who knows, but we're not allowed to go there for some reason.
So what's the theory that happens at the edge? I know nobody can go
No,
there.
there's more after. You missed the part where you
Yeah,
said
there's
they-
possibly more.
Other stuff after. But what about like your compass, right? Like you were saying how like
Yeah, it always
a
points
compass
north.
still works.
Yeah, it still points to the north. The North Pole's right here in the middle, and you know wherever you're at, the compass is going to point north.
But now if you use a real compass and it was much more beyond it, and you were lost at sea,
Use a real compass? What do you mean?
and a real compass, if you used a compass,
Oh, okay.
right, and you were lost at sea,
Yeah.
you could potentially be driving or
No, because you're going to hit the ice
driving
wall.
whatever, towards the ice wall.
Yeah.
Yes, if you went due south in any direction, you're
Right.
going to hit the ice wall.
So do we have any people saying, hey, we hit this ice wall and we've been met with force?
Yes.
We have?
Yes, yes. The man that was fined the Norwegian money. There's multiple people who have done it. I only know a couple that I've looked into, but his name was like Jan Zahu. It's a really weird name. I can try to send it to you if you'd like. But he was fined like 45,000 Norwegian or whatever and escorted back. So anyways, yeah, like I just like to wrap it up real quick, guys. I know it's getting kind of long, but like I told you, gravity, explained earlier, it really doesn't fit with the spinning ball. They tell us that gravity is holding trillions and trillions and trillions of gallons of oceans onto the earth. Why don't the oceans fly off? You always ask your little kid. Well, gravity's holding all that on. Gravity's holding all those trillions of gallons. Doesn't mess with this guy. Doesn't mess with birds, doesn't mess with planes, doesn't mess with anything. All that force, that's got to be a hell of a lot of force to be holding all those oceans in. Does it mess with you when you lift your leg into the air? I don't feel gravity that's pushing all those oceans in on my leg. I don't feel it on anything. Gravity, like I was saying earlier, only really fits with a spinning ball that keeps our oceans on. If we're flat and movable, we really don't need it. We have density, buoyancy, electromagnetism. This goes into more about the separation of things with buoyancy. It explains it more if you'd like to look into that. As you can see, Freemasons, Sir Isaac Newton bestowed his theory of gravity upon the world. You can look more into that. The Red Bull jump, yes.
What happens if you take a jump of water and you just pour it? Why does it fall down?
Because it's heavier than the air. That's heavier than the air, it falls. How come a hot air balloon goes up? Gravity's not forcing that down because hot air balloon's lighter, this is heavier. It's just
So
density.
you still believe in gravity?
No, gravity's out
You believe in density. Mass and matter, you believe in.
Basically, there's things that happen like this, and they just told you it's gravity. There's no proof of it, it's just a theory. How come this isn't density? See what I mean?
Right.
That's all I'm saying. So there's no place for gravity in the flat model. It only goes with the ball, and they came together. So look, guys, we found the curvature. Look, there it is, proof. Sorry, I lied about everything. There's the curve. Oh wait, sorry. This is Felix Baumgartner's Red Bull jump. He went up there and they showed this. This was a fisheye GoPro lens. How do we know that? Because here's the fisheye GoPro and here's the flat horizon. If you continue on, it was this big curvature with this fisheye GoPro, and when he jumped out, it started to invert the other way. So first it was curved this way, and then it curved upward. So clearly they were using a fisheye lens, and the one view that they cut to that was not from the fisheye showed out the window and showed everything consistent with what I've showed you, a perfectly flat horizon. Another thing to point out with Felix is that is all land. This is New Mexico. So if New Mexico is that big, New Mexico is also now like a quarter of the planet, and there's no water in all of that area. So it just goes to show you this is a very small area, and that's just a distorted curvature from the GoPro lens. And it was proven when they showed the final clip. Here's another example of it. Curved here, without it here. GoPro lens corrector. One of the common misconceptions is, oh, we'll fall off the edge. That's what we're laughed about when we bring up this theory. There's a controlled opposition called the Flat Earth Society. If you look it up, beware of them. They will tell you that it's still moving upward in this weird way. They throw in these weird numbers and stuff that is no basis whatsoever on anything. I would call this controlled opposition to try to deter what's really going on. It took me 30 seconds of flat earth research to find out there wasn't an edge. So when people were like, I've looked into that, it's ridiculous, we fall off the edge. You've not looked into it for more than 30 seconds. There is no edge, there's an ice wall. An eclipse, they tell us an eclipse happens because all three of us are lined up perfectly like 3 billiards balls, and it casts a shadow. 40, I think 50 occurrences throughout history and time that is well documented, you can look it up for yourself, that have the sun and the moon both in your vision above the horizon. So if you've got the sun and the moon up there, what the hell is casting the shadow? It doesn't make any sense. So the eclipse has taken place when this doesn't take place every now and then. So that makes it totally inconsistent with it casting the shadow. What's really happening? That's your best guess. The theory is there's another celestial body out there called the Black Sun or Rahu or something like that, I believe. But they think that it's like an invisible celestial body and it passes in front. And that's what is casting it. Because if those two guys are up there together, we're not lined up perfectly like they say. So it just doesn't check out. The last thing for you guys basically is the planets. If you take a look at planets under an amateur telescope, they look like little fluorescent discs. Mars doesn't appear to be red, Neptune doesn't appear to be blue, but they're like little flashing luminaries almost.